Yo. Pardon. Test son. 2 secondes. On va refaire le yo. Je suis à l'arrache pour changer. Et voilà, on est très content. Allez. Attendez. Test son. Yo. Attendez. Test son. Yo. Pas mal. Test son numéro 2. Attendez. Test son. Yo. Yo. Pas mal. Bon. Alors. Messieurs, dames. Bonjour. J'ai décidé que, vu qu'on faisait que jouer à Celery Craft, pardon, que Minecraft était vraiment un jeu de merde. Bon, c'est pas tout à fait ça. Le truc, c'est que, pour une raison inconnue, moi je pense que c'est parce que c'est un mélange de Java et des développeurs qui ne savent pas faire un jeu. Minecraft est un jeu horrible, qui bouffe mes performances, qui me fait du mal. Alors je me suis dit que pour se relaxer, on allait jouer à un jeu source, parce que les jeux sources, c'est une source sûre. J'ai pas fait exprès, pardon. Bref, ce matin donc, en démarrant Garry's Mod, je me suis rendu compte que bien que le jeu soit 2 FPS, il prenait absolument aucune performance sur mon ordi. Je me suis donc dit quel est le seul jeu source que j'ai oublié de faire, et c'est The Stanley Parable. Si on le dit avec l'accent anglais, ça fait The Stanley Parable, qu'on peut traduire par la parable du Stanley. Donc, comme en ce moment je suis en train de regarder Sévrance, je me suis dit que ça serait de circonstance de jouer à un jeu de bureau. Et c'est pour ça que nous y allons de suite. Alors étant donné aussi que j'ai... Ouais, c'est ce qui me semblait. J'ai aucune idée de comment qu'on fait. Ça a été plus simple que ce que je pensais. Eh ben nous y voilà. On voit bien. Attendez. Test visuel. Ok, test visuel réussi. Euh... Oh, je vais vous mettre les sous-titres en français, peut-être. Parce que vous speakez pas bien anglais ici. Alors oui, on joue à la version Deluxe, mais j'ai la version normale. Je sais pas ce que ça change. Bah, c'est bon. Donc, il est 2 heures de l'après-midi, 2h06. Alors par contre, ouais, pour vous, visuellement, ça change rien. Voilà. Je suis en train d'écouter le mec qui parle en arrière-plan, là, et...
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Ok. Sympa. Sans bordure, fenêtré. Ouais, pas mal. Alors, ça c'est important. Gauche, droite. Et... interagir. S'accroupir. Et nous sommes bons.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Ok, je peux jouer. Alors, on est 427. Est-ce qu'il y a... Il n'y a pas de zoom. Je peux pas lire les feuilles. Je peux pas sauter. Alors, quand c'est en 27, je vais supposer qu'on doit aller voir le numéro 1 parce que c'est lui le patron.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
Ok, le narrateur est pas content, je crois que je tripote tout. Mais je peux arrêter tous les ordis? Ils sont déjà tous arrêtés. J'ai arrêté le seul ordi qui était important pour l'histoire. C'est pas le script du... Non, je sais pas. Ça fait des petits bruits de clavier en plus quand j'appuie sur les touches. C'est joli ça. Ah, un autre ordinateur à éteindre. Oula, 4B6. C'est compliqué leur numérologie ici. 456, 457. C'est un peu le bazar en plus. Moi je ferme pour les courants d'air.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
D'accord. Bon, bah... Bonjour. Faut pas contredire le narrateur, je crois. Ah, il y a un ordinateur allumé, je peux pas aller l'éteindre.
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
Bah écoute, ça va, à part que je mets en colère le narrateur. Ah, attends, il y a un mec à ban.
Yes, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
Non mais après les tableaux ils sont beaux, arrête à un moment, c'est bon. Je vais y aller mais laisse-moi 2 secondes.
At this point, Stanley's obsession with this room bordered on creepy and reflected poorly on his overall personality. It's possible that this is why everyone left.
J'ai juste pris 2 secondes pour aller ban un mec, arrête.
Stanley sat around waiting for more dialogue, but when a long time had passed and there was no more, he decided that the game was trying to send him a message.
C'est bon, j'y vais. On y va. Je devais penser, il est où mon téléphone? Bon. Ça y est? Il a fini? On va y aller.
But at last, he'd had enough of the amazing room
Non,
and took
non.
the first open door on his left to get back to business. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Mais je suis curieux, moi je veux voir. Mais franchement, ça a l'air d'être plus incroyable ici que là-bas. D'accord, je ne mentirai pas. Oh, franchement, si, c'est incroyable ici. J'ai bien fait de venir là. D'accord, donc il ne faut pas sauter. On pourrait mourir.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance.
Je crois qu'il est pas content. Mais je sais pas, j'ai vu un truc qui m'a dit de pas sauter là-bas, ça m'a attiré mon attention. C'est un peu plus grand que là où je travaille, hein, n'empêche.
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
Je sais pas là, hein. Bon, je sais que je t'ai un peu contrarié tout à l'heure. Mais je sais pas, rouge, moi ça m'inspire pas confiance.
Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door.
Oui, 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 la porte rouge.
I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door.
Ah bah, oui, bien sûr.
All right, fine, go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you. You see? There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map, because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it
Honnêtement,
worth
oui.
ruining the entire story I had written out specifically for you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing, because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me. You've given me absolutely nothing so far. Tell you what, let me take a stab in the dark at a new design, and you can give me some feedback. There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Go ahead, Stanley. Take it for a spin.
Je sais pas, je suis tenté, mais en même temps j'ai un peu peur, hein. Ah,
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here.
pff, on va mettre la moyenne, hein, parce que franchement, je suis un peu perdu.
Oh, of course. A 3. Really? Maybe next time we can get you to form an actual opinion, you know? Any level of critical thinking or engagement with your surroundings? Does that sound good? Think we can do that, yes? Hmm?
C'est la première fois que je parle, arrêtez de m'engueuler.
Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look.
Oh, télé, télé. J'ai pas mis 7h37. J'ai pas... Ça fait 20 minutes qu'on est là. Bon. Bah, porte rouge, hein.
Now, would you say that
Ah.
competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors? Again, honest answers, please.
Honnêtement, non.
Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some playtesting. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let me boot it up.
Bon. D'accord.
In this game, the baby crawls left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches the fire, you fail. It's a very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective? Be sure to keep notes on your experience.
Je sais pas, je suis un peu un iPad kid, hein. Il a eu chaud, hein. Grosse ambiance, hein.
You heartless bastard. Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me? Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas.
Honnêtement, je suis pas
I
très
can't
enfant,
think
mais...
of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try. I'm out, I'm done. It's over. Thank you for playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game? Just to ease the pain. Let's see. What do we have here?
Non, mais... J'aime bien ton jeu, mais c'est
Yes.
juste que...
This seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot.
Je crois que je l'ai un peu vexé.
Aha! Fascinating.
Ok,
What do you think
attends,
this game is
attends,
about,
attends.
Stanley? What's our backstory? What is our motivation? Well, it seems obvious to me that you are meant to play as a creepy man spying on innocent civilians below you from up high in your creep tower, perhaps for some sort of twisted erotic purpose. Yes, that must be it. What a fascinating venture into the experience of total mental depravity. So far, I love
Non, mais c'est...
everything about this game, Stanley. And it seems there's even more. Come, let's venture outward and see what else is out there.
Écoute, c'est pas ce que tu crois. Mais en vrai, si, c'est un peu incroyable, là. Enfin, franchement, ça ressemble plus à ma vie de rêve, ça, que... Non, mais... Oh, la skybox, mais c'est... Si, je lis tes commentaires, mais je suis en train de me disputer avec le narrateur en même temps, excuse-moi. Non, mais... ah, franchement... Mais la skybox, elle est magnifique, là. Eh, franchement, ça valait le coup. Ça valait le coup de pas suivre le chemin. En vrai. Bon, on saura jamais pourquoi mes collègues de travail ont disparu, mais au moins, j'ai les vacances à la montagne. Je devrais envoyer ce jeu à mon patron.
No, it can't be.
Mais en plus, c'est un
It
open
is.
world.
It's an open world game.
Mais oui,
Good
c'est un
God,
open
quickly,
world.
block it off. Oh, thank goodness, Stanley. What a close call. You nearly wandered off into that thing, that big open, just wandering around, no right or wrong directions, no path to follow. You can just go in any. Oh, thank heavens we avoided it. We're out of the woods now, Stanley. Okay, I'm going to get us out of here.
Non,
And another game.
non, je veux rester
Preferably
ici.
Something with walls. Something with nice, big, insurmountable walls.
Je veux rester ici. Je suis bien ici.
Okay.
Non,
I think
je
this
peux pas partir.
is the thing.
Non, Non. Et
Wonderful. See,
je
this
suis
is
dans Rocket
exactly
League.
what I had in mind. Just a nice big box for you to run around in. There isn't any possibility that you could get lost here. Now this is game design. Stanley, if you manage to get lost in this game, I will be phenomenally impressed.
C'est Rocket League. Et j'ai même pas de voiture.
Okay, so what exactly do we do here? Let's see. There are lots of cars here in the back, but obviously there's no racetrack. Okay, I'm seeing that there's a ball of some kind back here. Is this game sports ball? Stanley, I think it's sports ball. Oh, what fun. We shall run the bases and do a touchdown together. Yes, I think surely we must. Okay, Stanley, here's the ball. Have fun.
Bah, ça aurait été mieux avec la voiture, hein. Après, la balle est plus légère que ce que je pensais. Oh! Oh, je cours
Are
vite.
you doing it? Are you winning? Is this fun? Is it
En
better
vrai,
than
oui.
my miserable little story that I... Hold on. What are you doing?
J'ai pas fait exprès.
Stanley, don't do that. I can't follow you there. I can't help you. How will you write a story without me? You can't do it. You know that. Stanley, come back.
Ok. J'ai l'impression d'être dans la partie de... D'accord. J'ai l'impression d'être dans la partie de Portal où on s'échappe du chemin. De Portal 2. C'est open world là aussi ou... Non mais c'est bien fait. D'accord. Ok. Ça devait pas être par là alors.
I wonder what he found. If what he wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's gotten it. Down in wherever he is right now. I wonder if he's happy with his choice. And if he's learned the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end, to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion. That's who I am. That is what I mean to this world. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be back. There's no other way. Once this ends, after it all comes to a close, then I'll be back. The end will be here soon. Very soon. I can wait.
Ah, j'allais dire j'ai un écran noir, plus rien ne se passe là. Oh! Oh, on est de nouveau au début.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Qu'est-ce qui se serait passé si j'avais continué tout droit?
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Ben oui, monsieur le narrateur, je sais.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good
C'était
job,
trop
Stanley.
tentant.
Everyone thinks you are very powerful. All of his co-workers were
Bon.
gone. What could it
Donc,
mean?
le suicide n'est pas
Stanley
une
decided to go to the
solution.
meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Hmm. Je l'aurais jamais cru, tiens.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge
J'admire.
was sublime, a work of art. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
J'arrive, la porte à gauche, hein.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years
Je veux
ago.
voir qu'est-ce qu'il y a là-haut.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here.
Mais non.
I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not.
Mais je sais.
I
Mais je
realize that
sais, je
investing
vois.
your trust in someone else can be difficult. But
Mais
the
je vous
fact is that the
taquine.
story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Qui? Qui donc? Qui m'attendait?
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this. To reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
Mais qui c'est, elle?
As Stanley picked up the phone, a white light engulfed him, filling him not just with radiance, but with hope.
Mais j'ai
Hope for a
pas...
life reunited one... Wait. Oh, goodness. Stanley, did you just unplug the phone? No, that
Oui.
wasn't supposed to be a choice. How did you do that?
Bah, je
Actually,
sais pas.
chose incorrectly? I didn't even know that was possible.
Bah, mais
Let me
non
double
plus.
check.
Bah,
No,
on
it's
peut peut-être
definitely
le
a
rebrancher,
clear
non?
day. Stanley picks up the phone. He's taken to his apartment where he finds his wife, and the two pledge themselves to one another. Music comes in, fade to white, roll credits. Not picking up the phone is actually somehow an incorrect course of action. How is that even possible? None of these decisions were supposed to mean anything. I don't understand. How on earth are you making meaningful choices? What did you... Wait a second. Did I just see... No, that's not possible. I can't believe it. How had I not noticed it sooner? You're not Stanley. You're a real person. I can't believe I was so mistaken. This
Bah
is
pardon,
why
j'ai
you've
pas
been
fait...
able to make correct and incorrect choices. And to think I've been letting you run around
Oh,
in
mais-
this game for
mais-
so long. If you'd made any more wrong choices, you might have negated it entirely. It's as though you completely ignored even the most basic safety protocol for real-world
Non, mais
decision-making. Or did you not grasp
si
the
vous-
severity of the situation? Well, I won't have that kind of risk on my watch. I'm going to stop the game for a moment so we can educate you properly on safe decision-making in the real world. Please observe this helpful instructional video.
Choice. It's
Oh.
the best part of being a real person. But if used incorrectly, can also be the most dangerous. For example, in this scenario, a hypothetical real person named Rupert has a choice. He could invent a machine that eliminates food shortages across the world to make life better for all people. Or he could spend years of hard work forgetting how to read. Which choice would you make? Remember that unlike here, the real world makes sense, and at no time should you make a choice that does not conform to rational logic. If you find yourself speaking with a person who does not make sense, in all likelihood, that person is not real. Allow the person to finish their thought, then provide an excuse why you cannot continue talking. Turn to a partner and practice saying, "My goodness, is it 4:30? I'm supposed to be having a back, sack, and crack." Excellent. Making choices on a regular basis is the best part to a healthy decision-making process. Most medical professionals recommend making at least 8 choices per day. Do you make more than 8? Less? And finally, if you begin to wonder if your choices are actually meaningful and whether you'll ever make a significant contribution to the world, just remember that in the vast infiniteness of space, your thoughts and problems are materially insignificant, and the feeling should subside. At this time, your instructor will guide you in an exercise to test and reinforce the material covered in this video.
Ah, welcome back.
But
You may have noticed that this room has begun to deteriorate as a result of narrative contradiction. But not to worry. Now that you're properly informed on good decision-making, we're going to revisit a choice you made just a few minutes ago and see what the correct thing to do would have been. This way, please.
bah, je peux pas... Je peux pas le rebrancher? Bon, d'accord. Ok. Je ressors et je re-rentre. D'accord, je ne re-rentre pas.
Now that we know your choices are meaningful, we can't have you jumping off the platform and dying. Imagine the main character dying senselessly halfway through the story. That story would make no sense at all. We just need to get you home as soon as possible before the narrative contradiction gets any worse. Unfortunately, it seems this place is not well equipped to deal with reality.
Bon, d'accord. Si je peux rentrer chez moi, moi ça me va. Ah, la salle bleue, c'est exactement ce que je... Pas l'heure. Hein.
Almost there. You'll take the door on the left, back to the correct ending, the story will have resolution once again, and you'll be home free in the real world.
Je crois que j'aurais peut-être dû décrocher le téléphone.
Now remember, all you need to do is behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm
Okay.
quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right.
D'accord.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ok, la porte on my left.
No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry back in the other direction. Perhaps we're not too late.
Ok. La porte. Hein. La porte.
Oh, it's ruined. I can't believe, after everything we talked about, that my story, you've destroyed my work. Why? For what? What did you get out of that? What did you think was so special
J'ai
about seeing the game
pas
undone, left here like
fait
so
exprès.
much garbage? It's worthless now. And what am I supposed to do? Even if there were a way to continue, would it be worth it? To know that my story is now incorrect? How can I go back to that? I can't erase that knowledge. I'll have to live with it forever, reliving its impossibility forever. I couldn't live that way. Is it better to shut the game down entirely? To willingly destroy all of my work?
Non.
What's the answer? What do I do? What do I do? What do I... No, I have to. I have to shut the game down.
Non, mais je vais aller prendre la
I
porte
have
là-bas.
to.
Non, non.
Oh, I'm here. I'm still here. Here in this pile of rubbish. With you. You. Who thought you were so clever. Now look where we are. My entire game is destroyed. It was the only thing in the world that was mine, and you've run it into the ground. What, did you think that would be funny? You just had to see? Didn't I impress upon you how important it was to be like Stanley? He actually knows how to do what I tell him to. He understands that if I say to do something, there's a damn good reason for it. That thought hadn't even occurred to you, had it? That there's a world outside of you? You're a child. Oh, my story. If you'd just gone through the door on the left, you would have seen it. There was a whole underground facility. You would have destroyed it and been victorious. It would have been so perfect. I worked so hard on it. I tried so hard to make... behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first.
Oui.
I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry back. Behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors,
Oui.
he entered the door on his left. No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry. Behave exactly as Stanley
D'accord.
would.
Bon, le jeu me laissera pas
Choosing
continuer
responsibly
d'aller à
and
droite.
always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Oui. Left.
Yes,
Alors.
there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Comment il fait pour changer vu qu'il y a personne pour appuyer sur le slide? Hmm. Ah, mais c'est... c'est très drôle. Ça ressemble énormément à un truc d'entreprise, étonnamment. Y'a quoi sur celui là-bas? Ok. Bon, allez, on va voir le patron.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Mais mon patron, il habite à l'autre bout du monde. Oh, c'est joli ici. Vous êtes sûr que c'est chez mon patron, ça, et que je suis pas rentré chez quelqu'un?
Stepping inside his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, until he saw the door with a voice receiver next to it. Surely behind this door lay all the answers to his questions. And beyond all probability, he knew the passcode. He had seen it on his boss's computer just last week. Nightshark 115. Was this the code to open the door? Would it still work? There was only one way to find out. Stanley had been trained never to speak up, but now he would draw from within himself the courage to face the unknown. He drew a sharp breath and then spoke the code.
Requin nocturne 115.
Stanley spoke the code. Night Shark 115. He spoke it into the receiver, right there on the wall.
Requin nocturne 115.
I'm sorry, is there a problem?
Mais je sais
Didn't
pas ça.
mishear me, did you?
Non mais
Please
ça...
speak the code into the receiver.
Mais c'est ce que j'essaie
Otherwise
de
we
faire.
can't get on with the story. This
Et-
is a crucial
Non mais
step.
j'essaye, mais ça ne marche pas. Bon, regardez, regardez. Requin nocturne.
Okay, fine, you're not gonna do it, but you know what? It's pretty humiliating to bring you this far, only for you to suddenly decide you have better things to do. I asked you for this one single thing, for your respect. The kind of respect Stanley shows for his choices. He knows what it
J'ai
means to tell
essayé,
stories.
j'ai essayé.
If you didn't want to see what I had to show you, then
Non,
why
mais-
did you come here? You had a choice, you know. You could have gone through the door on the right. You could have done whatever the hell you wanted over there. Why
Non, mais
did
j'ai
you come
fait.
this way? Speak. Say something to me. Explain yourself, you coward. You...
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. Stanley? Hello? Are you... Is everything okay? Stanley, please. I need you to make a choice. I need you to walk through the door. Are you listening to me? Can you hear me? Is everything all right? Stanley, this is important. The story needs you. It needs you to make a decision. It cannot exist without you. Do you understand me? Whatever choice you make is just fine. They're both correct. You cannot be wrong here. We can work together. I'll accept whatever you do. I simply need you to take that step forward, please. Choose. Do something. Anything. This is more important than you can ever know. I need this. The story needs it. So, you hear me? Are you there? Are you listening to this? Stanley, are you there? Okay. It's okay, I can wait. You need time to decide. Time to make sure your choice is correct. That is the best choice. That's all right. I'll wait for you to decide what's the right thing to do. Take as much time as you need.
All of his co-workers were gone.
D'accord.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Les
And so
abandonnés.
he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
On descend dans les backrooms.
But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left.
Y a pas de la lumière par ici?
Oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake.
Ah bon, bah, c'est là où j'allais. Ça tombe bien.
No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please?
Pas de problème. Hein. Je veux pas d'ennui, moi. Hein.
Let's see, we went down right, left, down,
Oui.
left, right.
Oui.
Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This
Est-ce que
story
ça serait
is
pas...
absolutely, definitely this way.
Mais est-ce que ça serait pas haut, haut, bas, bas? Droite, gauche, droite, gauche.
No, 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 no. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, hmm? Okay, from the top. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it be?
D'accord, pardon.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley... Wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear, I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Or did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere, or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
Ah oui, d'accord. Ah oui, on est vraiment dans le labyrinthe, là, ça y est.
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
Bon.
All of his co-workers were gone.
Je
What could it
sors.
mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ça doit être ça, oui. Et il n'y a plus de porte.
Okay, yep, it's worse. I might
No.
be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
Il n'y a pas une porte ouverte, non.
Aha! I knew we'd missed something. The story. Here it comes. No, wait. Never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps.
Mais c'est ce qu'on...
Now this... Well, I'll be honest. I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win!
Ah!
Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job.
Merci.
Oh, no, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time, I have to restart. All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable adventure line. Just follow the line. How simple is that?
D'accord. On suit la...
No, I'm down. We're leaving it up to the line from now on.
Ah, pardon. Oui, la ligne, pardon. La ligne. La ligne. On n'est pas venu
See,
par ici.
the line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Okay, Stanley, I need to follow this train of thought for a minute. Just stick with me. Now, we can both agree that the nature of existence is in fact a byproduct of one's subjective experience of that existence, right? Okay. Now, if my experience of your existence rests inside of your subjective experience of this office, is this office, in fact, the skeleton of my own relative experiential mental subjective construct? Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood.
Je veux bien. Je m'attendais pas tout à fait à ça comme musique, honnêtement. Oh, le 6, on approche du patron. Oh, bah... Ok, je viens d'ici. Alors, non, attendez, je me suis perdu. Ah, ici.
Wait, cut the music, go back and look at that fern. Stanley, this fern will be very important later in the story. Make sure you study it closely and remember it carefully. You won't want to miss anything.
Ok.
Wait, what? We're back at the office? No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell?
Ah, il va pas être content si je vais ici. C'est la fin de l'histoire. Il va pas être content. Bon, tant pis. J'ai comme l'impression qu'on s'est un peu égaré, hein.
Oh, no, not again. Line, how could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart. You know what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us?
C'est
We're
vrai.
intelligent
Je suis
people,
d'accord.
right? Why
Ouais,
can't
ouais.
we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
Allez, c'est parti.
Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it.
Je partirais bien dans la forêt, honnêtement. Un truc dans la forêt.
Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine.
Ouais, mais elle nous suit, hein, quand même. Je veux bien pas trop faire attention à elle, mais... Allez, reparti.
Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control.
Allez.
How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere, the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic.
Non, mais...
Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits.
Le truc, c'est qu'à chaque fois que j'ai pris la porte à droite, ça a pas bien fini, forcément.
Oh, hold up, what's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game, what, eight times? That's really how all this goes? It's all determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide?
La
Why
librairie...
don't I get a say in all of this?
Les
Is it really-
librairies...
No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it.
Ne le faisons pas.
And the timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen? So, okay.
Honnêtement, je crois que...
I guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story. Wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you...
Honnêtement, il m'a fait un peu peur.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ma foi.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Stanley felt lightheaded, butterflies in his stomach, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Je crois que j'ai fait le tour de tout ce que je pouvais faire. Hein.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might... Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
J'ai l'impression que j'ai fait toutes les fins possibles, moi, là.
There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here. It was baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to interact with, he'd be justified in some way. As it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA. Are you really still in the broom closet? Standing around doing nothing? Why? Please offer me some explanation here. I'm genuinely confused.
Alors, je suis un peu perdu en fait sur qu'est-ce qu'il faut qu'on fasse. Je suis...
You do realize there's no choice or anything in here, right? If
Oui,
I'd said
mais...
Stanley walked past the broom closet, at least you would have had a reason for exploring it to find out. But it didn't even occur to me because literally this closet is of absolutely no significance to the story whatsoever. I never would have thought to mention it.
Le truc, c'est que je suis un peu perdu. Je ne sais pas trop où on va, et je me dis qu'ici, c'est un peu...
To you, this is somehow its own branching path. Maybe when you go talk about this with your friend, you'll say, "Oh, did you get the broom closet ending? The broom closet ending was my favorite." I hope your friends find this concerning.
T'as oublié les sous-titres, là, si je peux me permettre.
Stanley was fat and ugly and really stupid. He probably only got the job because of a family connection. That's how stupid he is. That or with drug money. Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Ça a escaladé très vite, dis donc.
Well, I've come to a very definite conclusion about what's going on right now. You're dead. You got to this broom closet, explored it a bit, and were just about to leave because there's nothing here, when a physical malady of some sort shut down your central nervous system and you collapsed on the keyboard. Well, in a situation like this, the responsible thing is to alert someone nearby so as to ensure that your body is taken care of before it begins to decompose. Hello? Anyone who happens to be nearby? The person at this computer is dead. They have fallen prey to any number of your countless human physiological vulnerabilities. It's indicative of the long-term sustainability of your species. Please remove their corpse from the area and instruct another human to take their place, making sure they understand
Bonjour.
basic first-person video game mechanics and filling them in on the history of narrative
Alors,
tropes in video gaming.
apparemment...
So that the irony and insightful commentary of this game is not lost on them.
Apparemment, je suis mort.
When you've done that, just step out into the hallway.
Apparemment, je suis mort, donc c'est pas un bon moment pour arriver. Hein. C'est pas moi qui le dis, c'est lui. Hein. Dalle. Oh, il y a les sous-titres. Ah bah ils ont disparu. Je sais pas, hein, il y a des cases, moi je... C'est quoi le réticule? Ah, c'est le pointeur au milieu de l'écran. Non, c'est bon, on n'en a pas besoin. Bon, allez. Du coup, je disais... Oui.
Ah, second player. It's good to have you on board. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Voilà.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished. His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an
Ah, bah
explanation.
voilà, bah je
His
tourne.
co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He
C'est un
wasn't
rêve quand même
crazy after
vachement
all.
angoissant, hein.
And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
Yo.
Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream.
Je vous
How
souhaite...
could it be?
Je veux pas lui
Was
couper la
Stanley
parole.
simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep,
La
he doesn't
dernière
have to
fois,
take
il m'a
responsibility for
engueulé
himself?
quand je lui ai coupé la parole.
Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How
Ça aurait
else
pu
would the
être un
voice
hasard
explain all
après.
that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control.
Je suis
that
en
this
train de
was a
devenir
dream.
complètement Monkey Crazy
So
là.
he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin,
Oh, il me donne envie d'aller dormir là le jeu.
the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over.
Je vois sur le côté de
Let me go
l'écran.
back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please. It's all I want. I want my apartment and my life and my
Je
job.
devrais.
All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
I am okay. Et voilà. Non, je ne crois pas me
Stanley
souvenir
began
de toi.
screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am
Oh, One
I?
Block, ça remonte à quelques mois déjà.
Went black.
Je suis en train de faire une crise de panique et on reparle du One Block.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And though she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better.
C'est un bon
Then
jeu
she
quand même.
remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this. So it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she
Je me souviens, oui, en effet. Eh ben regarde, finalement, c'est moi qui est mort. Comme quoi.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he
J'ai envie de retourner voir le patron. Attendez, où c'est que je suis pas allé? Ouais, au niveau du patron.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Le fait que j'ai toujours pas réussi à faire la bonne
Yet
fin.
there
Hein.
was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Hoping he might coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ok. Oh! J'avais pas vu ça encore. J'ai pas de reflet. J'avais pas encore vu les toilettes. Je suis sur The Stanley Parable. Et je suis assez confus. Pas mal les toilettes. Mais le bureau du patron a changé. À chaque fois que j'ai l'impression que ça y est, j'ai fini le jeu, il y a une nouvelle possibilité. Allez, on descend, c'est pas grave. Je sais pas comment cette musique est pas copyright. Hein. Toujours pareil, depuis 2 secondes, j'ai pas changé de jeu. C'est long. D'accord, donc... Est-ce qu'on serait pas dans un ascenseur qui va nulle part? Alors, je joue à Stanley Parable, qui à la base est un mode pour Half-Life 2. Mais on joue à la version Deluxe, qui est un jeu à part entière sur Unity. Et où je suis un employé de bureau qui cherche à comprendre pourquoi tous ses collègues ont disparu. Jusqu'à maintenant, ce que j'ai découvert, c'est que si je n'obéissais pas à la petite voix dans ma tête qui me dit ce que je dois faire, il y a de terribles conséquences. Notamment, à un moment, j'ai eu un bébé qui s'est retrouvé dans du feu. Ou aussi, le monde a littéralement explosé. Mais aussi, j'ai eu des vacances dans une forêt. Mais je sais toujours pas pourquoi tout le monde a disparu. Et maintenant, j'ai trouvé un ascenseur dans le bureau de mon patron. Et j'ai... Bah, j'ai pas l'impression qu'il est quelque part, quoi. J'ai pas l'impression que l'ascenseur, il nous amène quelque part. Mais laisse-moi aller quelque part. Il est diabolique cet ascenseur.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Il a dit quoi comme numéro? 2845?
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Ah ouais. Oh, ok, c'est un ascenseur. Je me suis dit, je vais sauter dans le vide.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Ah, sortie. Sortie.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Yippee! Ok, c'est peut-être la mort. Ou pas.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Ah! Oh, pas mal.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
Donc le narrateur a essayé de me tuer.
When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Ça va être irréprochable, ce couloir a été déplacé, modifié. Les deux portes ouvertes constituent la toute première pierre du cabinet. Ah ouais. J'ai l'impression d'être dans le musée de Sévrance, hein. Son de bouton. Alors, par contre, le narrateur, je dois avouer que sa voix, elle est très bonne. Parce que, en vrai, franchement, il y a un côté où il transporte. Horloge de bureau. Une fois de plus, pas à l'heure. La salle de pause. Sous-sol.
End this injustice forever. Stanley pushed the big red button. Now look closely, Stanley. See how it's impossible for the player to do anything in this room? Perfect example of poor level design. Textbook mistake. It's the kind of thing you pick up on intuitively.
J'ai pas eu ça. Ça sort de la salle des écrans. Salle du compte à rebours. Je sais pas, j'ai l'impression de me spoiler en fait. C'est des trucs que j'ai pas fait. Fin relaxante. J'ai pas testé de décrocher le téléphone. Mais du coup, j'ai l'impression que je suis passé à côté d'un gros morceau du jeu. Ok, c'est un peu drôle. Bah ouais, franchement, pas mal, hein. Mais le pire, c'est que le game design, il est vraiment pas mauvais hein, sur le jeu.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time...
Oupsie.
I can't wait to tell this story to my co-workers, Stanley thought. How amusing they'll find it. Oh, won't we all just laugh and laugh at the time I thought everyone had gone missing.
Oh.
Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content?
Eh ben, on va voir. Vraisemblablement, j'ai gagné du nouveau contenu.
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please, step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Je pensais que ça allait se
This
lever.
sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content. Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure.
Sans aucun doute.
Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... oh, there we go.
C'est bon, remonte, c'est
All
bon.
right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it.
Et... Attention.
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if, oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley.
Allez, on va chercher le content.
All right, let's see. It's the jump circle.
Oh, on peut sauter! On peut pas maintenir pour sauter. Ah, on peut plus sauter.
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right?
Bah, je peux aller y rejeter un coup d'œil, mais... Non, non, c'est tout le contenu qu'il y a. Un saut pour sauter.
Goodness, another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this
No,
is new
mais
content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could counter 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh wait, there's more. Very good. Yes. I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is. That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base
dis-leur.
rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game?
Ça aurait été marrant que là, il y ait le mur qui tombe et...
Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
D'accord. En vrai, c'est marrant comme jeu. C'est très...
Psst. Stanley, come over here. In the vent. I want to show you something.
Bon, ok. Je crois que j'aurais peut-être pas dû faire ça.
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
C'est comme le musée, mais en mieux.
You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013, when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
Après, c'est vrai que je suis un peu déçu que ça soit pas un mode Half-Life 2. Enfin, que ça soit plus plutôt, mais...
Je suis dans la mémorisation, c'est sur la pluie de l'eau, et je n'attends.
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism. 10
dû
out of
garder la
10
musique.
from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created. Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
Le jeu nous rendrait presque nostalgique d'un truc qui n'a pas existé, mais... Ah ben voilà, Hammer Editor, je vous l'avais dit que c'était sur un mode source. Putain, la cravate Stanley Parable, en vrai, bon plan.
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games, and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone, to spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
Il y a un côté où ça donne beaucoup de... comment dire? Pas d'espoir, mais...
These were simpler times, Stanley. What I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no. Oh God, no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
On va voir ça.
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
J'aime bien que le jeu il soit un peu self-aware de lui-même, c'est très drôle. Je sais pas si c'est vraiment du new content ou pas après. Hein.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. I always, well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did, but maybe it wasn't. Oh dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered. What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only
Oh.
positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
Le fait que cette pièce soit sortie de l'eau, je pense que c'est la partie la plus drôle, hein, mais... D'accord, donc on n'a pas d'autre choix.
And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that the second my incessant droning starts to bore you, with just the push of a button, you'll have zipped right past it. It's what the players have been asking for, and I'm very proud to have delivered. No more listening to me rambling on and on and on. No, 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 no. The Stanley Parable is a game for the people. And if the people want silence, then by goodness, that's what they're going to get. Well, don't sit around waiting for me to shut up. Go ahead and make me shut up. Here, we'll pretend that I've just begun an interminable monologue, and it goes something like this. The story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once. So now you see, blah 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 blah. We've eaten too much and it can't be just yet. No, no, until 245. That the logic of elimination working backwards, the deduction therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for nearly 10,000 years, until just yesterday, here and there, forward and back, and never a moment before lunchtime. It can't be. It's the only thing there is. How many billions left until so much more than forever ago? Which is why I say, the story and the choices, or
Ok,
what
il est
have
en
you,
boucle.
and therefore by becoming it is. Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations. Well there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof, and it's all over. Oh, I can't wait to see what Cookie 9 will say about this, and whether they'll edit the rating of their Steam review, or at least change some of the wording, perhaps. Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? It's not unendurable by any means, but it's, well, there's really only so much I can ramble on to myself about. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? But at any rate, I
Oui, mais
do
tu
suggest that we not press the button again. I think the skip button has been aptly demonstrated, and we... Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there.
Ça grandit très
Longer,
vite,
but
mais...
they're really, truly getting longer, and my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is gone. It's completely gone. I've looked at it from every angle.
Cherche mieux.
Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Just sitting here. Not a single person to speak with. And you'd think that that's just how it's always been, right?
Je sais pas pourquoi il y a une
Me
lumière là.
talking and you saying nothing. Would you think that it's exactly the same as always? Doesn't that feel like what...
Ah.
Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin with, there is only regret. There is only the turning wheel of missed opportunities. I felt nothing at all but regret for the longest time, Stanley.
Ah, ça y est, je crois qu'il est mort, le narrateur. Je Je m'en veux un peu, hein, là, pour de vrai, d'un coup. Étant donné que ça faisait déjà 1 an l'autre fois, qu'on a rappuyé 2 fois, on doit avoir fait déjà une bonne décennie, peut-être un siècle.
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't
Après, il est
enough.
pas
They
mort,
had to
finalement,
leave a
ça va.
pathetic little thumbs down review and make all of their pit.
Putain, Cookie 9, là, avec son commentaire, par contre, il l'a énervé pour... Là, ça y est, on en est à 3 siècles.
The end is never the end, 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 is never the end.
D'accord, il est devenu fou. Ah, l'on commence à s'infiltrer, je crois. Vous pensez que la salle allait retourner sous l'eau, vu qu'elle venait de... pas de l'eau? Ah, j'espère que ça va pas me noyer, cette histoire. Ah. Ça marche aussi, je suppose. Ah, il fait jour. Donc déjà, on n'est pas retourné sous l'eau. Ah, il y a un arbre qui pousse sur le bâtiment. Ce qui paraît difficile. Bah, mon arbre. Oh. Ah. Bah, il est cassé. C'était assez cool comme ferme.
But Stanley simply couldn't handle the pressure. What if he had to make a decision? What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for that. No.
Alors,
This
attendez,
couldn't
qu'est-ce
go
qu'il me
anywhere
reste comme
except
endroit où
badly.
aller?
The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. In here I can be happy forever. I will be happy.
J'ai bien aimé cette fin avec le skip button en vrai.
Hours passed, then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be
Mais
told
ouais,
what
franchement,
to
cette
do.
fin, elle m'a plu.
Now it's just a little bit closer.
Now it's even closer. Here it comes. I can't wait to tell this story to my co-workers, Stanley thought. How amusing they'll find it. Oh, won't we all just laugh and laugh at the time I thought everyone had gone missing.
Bon, mais j'y suis déjà allé.
Oh, good. You noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
Bon, je suis curieux, hein. C'est pour me faire pardonner d'avoir détruit tes rêves la dernière fois.
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra-deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra-deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever, the Stanley Parable 2. Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged,
Ok, c'est très drôle ça.
entirely new experience built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for. Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential.
Ça me terrifie, on dirait une start-up américaine, c'est terrifiant. Le logo sur PowerPoint.
Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
Je voulais prendre le bus, moi. Ouh.
Here we are. Go on. Try out some of the new features.
Décoration du... Oh. Saut de réconfort de The Stanley Parable. Le bouton qui dit le nom du joueur qui joue au jeu.
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game. Isn't that wonderful?
Jim.
Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim.
Jim.
Whoa, hold on. I wasn't finished setting up the backstory. If you don't properly roleplay as Jim, then you'll never understand the impact of this button.
D'accord,
Otherwise,
d'accord.
it's just a stupid button that says somebody else's name. Okay, we're doing it again, and this time let me finish first. Now, allow yourself to become Jim. Imagine yourself driving to work as Jim, playing frisbee on the weekends as Jim, staying up all night for a popcorn and horror movie sleepover as Jim, developing a crippling substance addiction as Jim, rediscovering yourself through fringe religious groups as Jim. All right, fine, whatever. It's just a meaningless button that says Jim. Are you happy now? Get out of here. I'm done with this button. Why don't you go humiliate me in front of a different feature that I worked very hard on?
Le bouton qui dit Jim, c'était drôle aussi. J'avais peur de pas pouvoir passer trop longtemps sur ce jeu et qu'on le finisse très
Maybe
vite,
I'll
finalement.
only let people named Jim play the Stanley Parable 2. They would appreciate what I've created here.
On va prendre des screenshots. Pourquoi j'entends des interférences?
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I am happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the
Ah, il est là.
a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest,
Je peux l'essayer?
it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be
S'il vous
less
plaît.
uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try. Can you feel it? The glow of
Oh,
comfort,
quand je clique,
even in the
ça
face
avance.
of crushing despair must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit
avance
more
tout seul.
attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on and on, don't they? All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable 2.
Bon bah je pars avec mon seau. Hein.
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with? You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Happy 12th birthday, step-niece, it is. Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision, we're moving on.
C'est... Ouais. Joyeux anniversaire, la nièce. Hein.
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. It's... Oh, wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle. Oh well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece then.
Succès gratuit.
Now here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes, you see, you'll come to this lever. Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
Ouais, pas terrible, hein. Mais est-ce que ça veut dire que en fait je peux jouer qu'à la souris et c'est pour ça que... C'est vrai qu'il n'y a pas de bouton pour sprint, donc bon.
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet? Ah, collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
Il est horrible.
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
Ah non, j'ai raté l'autre là-bas. Ah bah j'ai raté le Infinite Hall aussi. Le bouton qui dit gym, c'est très drôle par contre.
An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes, yes, it would go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later.
D'accord, pas par là. Bon bah on va aller voir le trou, hein.
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is in fact a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right, infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium. You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward. Now, I don't mean to be a bummer, but I do recommend you use the teleport button to go back to the top. Maybe do it on the sooner rather than later spectrum of things.
Je sais pas, je suis curieux de voir la profondeur quoi.
Okay, Stanley. I don't know quite how to say this tactfully, but it's possible that I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole. Is it a very, very deep hole? To be certain it is. It's an extremely deep hole. I don't want anyone to say that it isn't an astonishingly deep hole. It is. Is it infinite? Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective,
The infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a... Okay, well, good for you. You found the bottom of the hole. You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat, and you're so clever. Look, I think the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling. What normal person actually wants to fall infinitely? I figured the hole was as deep as anyone would actually need. Don't you put this on me. Maybe you're the problem. Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we
Ah
didn't
oui, c'est
mean.
gênant. Hein.
Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly infinite? If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
Ça serait marrant que du coup il y ait un autre trou qui en fait il devrait être avec un fond, mais par contre celui-là il n'y a pas de fond. Enfin, je sais pas, ça serait drôle pour comment ça s'appelle pour enfin voilà quoi.
Great. Now, I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel.
Mais je crois que ça y est, je les ai toutes vues, à part le champion mode là. Ouais, non, il y a que ça que j'ai pas. J'ai vu le 3. Oui, j'ai vu le 3. Attends, est-ce que... Non, j'ai cru que peut-être c'était un truc où je pouvais appuyer sur la touche et ça m'y téléportait. Pilote, collective, infinite... Oh, exit. Ok, bah y a que le exit et le champion du monde que j'ai pas fait, mais le champion du monde, j'ai pas réussi à l'ouvrir.
All right. Have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to move on now? So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience.
Allons-y.
Okay. Are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2. I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on, let me do a different
Bah,
arrangement.
faudrait que j'aille le tester pour pouvoir
Okay,
dire.
yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go, version 2.
C'est
Who
pire.
am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original.
Et oui.
Maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I
suppose it could, but it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
J'allais appuyer sur... C'est étrangement stylé. Je lui accorde. Il y a quoi derrière la porte? Après, le truc c'est qu'avec un jeu, enfin un truc comme ça, je me serais pas imaginé un jeu pareil aussi.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427.
Il a juste mis les ballons partout.
Was simple. He sat at his All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to
Je
the
les aime
meeting
pas,
room.
ces
Perhaps he had simply
ballons-là.
missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Je peux pas les attraper, les ballons.
Stanley picked up the bucket. Stanley pressed the bucket upon every little thing in the office. Nothing responded to the bucket's touch, but it did little to discourage Stanley's belief in the magic of the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section.
C'est la même
and walked straight
version,
ahead to the opposite door.
mais avec le bucket.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Ah, cette fois c'est fermé. Oh.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk.
Je me souviens plus de
Nor
comment
in his
c'était.
bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the pin number for the keypad was 2845. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Oh!
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines. The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
Je viens de penser, mais la anse du seau bouge.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Ouais, je sais pas si du coup ça va me faire une fin normale ou pas à cause du saut.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as
Mais
Stanley
oui, non,
cradled it
la
gently,
anse du saut bouge.
reassuring it that everything would be fine.
Mais tout à l'heure quand je l'ai pris, bah, la anse était en l'air et voilà quoi.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
Attendez, il y avait un bouton 5. C'est-à-dire que quelque part, il y a un bouton 1, 2, 3 et 4. En effet. Un, deux. Trois. Ah, c'est fermé. Bon, c'est pas grave, on les a repérés. J'ai l'impression d'être dans la pièce de... Comment ça s'appelle?
When at last they came to the source, but at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How
D'accord.
could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly,
silly birds. The control buttons became active again. Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy. Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself, that's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all.
Y a plus le saut. Y a plus le saut.
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Y a plus le saut. Y a un saut. Y a plus le saut.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
D'accord. Bah je vais les chercher maintenant.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini-stands? Stanley figs? Or what about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
Je cherche les figurines. Pas de figurines. C'est dans les toilettes. Une figurine.
I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
Maintenant, on va chercher les figurines.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud.
Je me souviens plus de ce que c'était le
He
code.
began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Faut pas couper la parole au narrateur. J'ai compris.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Mais il me manque des figurines.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to
Je vais essayer de
life,
sortir.
their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Non, il me laisse toujours pas.
And when at last he found...
Voilà.
blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes! He had won! He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know.
Est-ce que ça veut dire qu'il y a un
It was
gros bâtiment
perhaps
carré?
the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin.
D'accord, on se
the
retournera
feeling
pas
of
pour voir.
liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Ah, bah j'ai eu l'achievement qui dit de finir le jeu. Eh ben ouais, je sais pas. Si, les figurines.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Je veux trouver les figurines. On va tester toutes les portes au cas où il y en a une qui mène aux figurines.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. And here it was, the lounge. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here.
Il y en a une là-bas.
Enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time.
Il y a une figurine.
Someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me. I'm asking for, this is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting. That's her, Stanley.
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha! Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here. Sorry, but you're in my story now.
D'accord, d'accord, j'ai compris. Ouais,
This
ça
is a
ressemble.
very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Ah!
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence. Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now
C'est un peu la fin, suicide-toi ça, mais...
he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life. But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful, and each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him. And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly. So he went further. He imagined that he came to 2 open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one. And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it. You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Ok, je me remets en question.
I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see.
Franchement, ça me donne presque envie de jouer au nouveau, enfin à l'ancien, hein, à l'original.
And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button.
Veuillez mourir. Veuillez mourir. Ça, c'est de la fin. Bon, allez, les figurines.
Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself, that's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Je les cherche, mais je ne les trouve pas.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had
Mais ça, c'est la fin crazy, là.
work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that? All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Okay, I think we all know the drill by now. Blah, blah, blah. Dark secrets, the keypad, Stanley pushes some buttons. Oh, hey, look, it's a new passageway. Quelle surprise.
Oh. Bah, merci. Hmm. Moi, je cherche les figurines.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Ah, mais je sais où il y a l'autre.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television
Que je suis
screens.
bête.
What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
En vrai, c'est marrant comme ça, les jeux, les trucs où t'as des choix, il y a plusieurs fins.
He couldn't accept it. His own life.
Mais il faudrait un
in someone
moyen, en
else's
fait, de
control.
pouvoir
Never.
se
It was
téléporter d'une fin à une autre, parce que c'est... Ça y est, là, je suis dans la phase où je commence à trouver ça un peu répétitif.
Utterly blind to the world. But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content, walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Je sais pas comment ouvrir la grille, en fait, pour le... Bon bah c'est pas grave, hein, on va finir le jeu une nouvelle fois et on va voir.
He found the source of... Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say, 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desire.
Ça y est, c'est ouvert.
Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story.
Ah.
Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away
Je suis un
from
peu perdu là.
rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure
Peut-être faut que je fasse les codes qu'il y a sur les murs, je sais pas.
Will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock, why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count, or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever after.
J'ai explosé. Ah.
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life.
Bah, du coup...
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ah, si.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well.
Mais je dois aller
Perhaps
chercher
he
la
wanted to
poupée.
stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. It was okay. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. You're getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the Figler and Marines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them, and now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler and Marines. None of us can.
Eh bah, ouais, mais comment je repars maintenant?
Stanley had now gotten himself so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun that it seemed the office had begun so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. You didn't think I was actually just a recording, did you? What a silly and trite explanation that would be. All the back and forth between you and me, all the
J'ai cru
absurd
pendant 2
adventures
secondes.
we've been through, and it all turns out I'm just a tape recording? It was all just in Stanley's head. I bet that's the kind of twist you think is revelatory. I bet each and every time you watch a movie where it turns out all to be in the main character's imagination, you must absolutely bolt off the couch in pure shock at the phenomenal and intricate storytelling. It must be so simple to be you. Life being an unending waterfall of surprises and delights. How much more exciting you must find the world than the rest of us do. Now I've become sad. Look what you've done to me. This is all your fault. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. It was okay. But eager to get back to
Il est
business,
devenu un peu
Stanley
blasé, hein.
took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake. No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please? Now, let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way. No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Ah, il n'y a plus les
Stanley
ballons.
decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley... Wait.
Ah.
What?
Comment j'avais fait la première fois pour avoir
Someone
les...
was following Stanley. He was sure of it. If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them. It was only a matter of time.
Je l'avais pas encore eu, ça.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Un endroit bleu et rouge.
Oh no, no, not again. I won't be part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it
Je sais
is
plus
you
comment on
enjoy
va
doing
là.
so much in this room.
Attends,
Please
comment j'ai
take
fait?
your time.
Comment j'avais fait? Attends, on va regarder le replay. Si je peux. J'y arrive pas. Je sais plus comment j'ai fait. Si. Putain, mais c'était il y a des heures. Je trouve même pas comment j'avais eu les... C'était il y a trop longtemps.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Here's the door, just go.
Ah si, je me souviens, je crois. C'est pas quand j'avais sauté du truc, c'est le premier truc que j'avais
Stanley
fait.
walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was, but of course, Stanley thought better of it and realized he simply had too much to live for. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore
Mais
the
ça fait
number
plus
of
de
an
3 heures que
employee
j'y
in the
suis.
building, Stanley's co-workers. The
Je tourne
lives
en
of
rond
so
depuis
many
plus de 3
individuals
heures.
reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Non, je veux pas. Je veux m'en aller. Non, mais en vrai, le truc, c'est... Je... Ouais, non, il y a un mode, Watch the Paint Dry, je crois que c'est pour Half-Life 2. Et en fait, je me dis que j'aurais peut-être aimé que ça soit un peu comme ça, parce que finalement, la plupart des fins sont
No,
débloquables.
he refused to believe it.
Elles sont débloquables assez... pas facilement, mais il y a juste à sauter dans le frigo à chaque fois, quoi.
Wait, Stanley thought to himself. Am I sure that the orders stopped coming in? How is that possible? They never stopped. Surely I was mistaken. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. It was okay. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look,
Allez, c'est
Stanley, I
parti, on y
think
va.
perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've... What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you
Moi,
of
je
this,
veux les
but I
figurines.
really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove
Figurine!
that I'm on... And there it is. The last Stiggly Wiggly. Savor this moment, Stanley. This is a real accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all, but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here. And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines.
Ah bah voilà.
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley?
Mais non.
I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
Ah, d'accord, j'ai pas le choix.
What do we want? What are we looking for? Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I think I feel happy. I actually feel happy. No, wait. Where are you going? Oh, no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this. Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me. Please, Stanley. No! Oh, no. No, no, what are you doing, Stanley? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before. If you die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this? Stanley, let's go back to the other room. My God, is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You are literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly?
On dirait mon ex.
Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore. I just wanted us to get along. But I guess that was too much to ask.
Le chantage affectif
Looks
du
like you wanted to
narrateur.
make a choice after all. Well, this one is yours.
Yippee!
Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
Le...
Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines, those figglers. I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness?
J'étais content,
Yes,
je
I know
l'avoue.
we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines. Just one more time.
Et je pense que ça sera notre dernière faire, là.
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley.
Ah, finalement, je voulais le récupérer, je suis un peu dégoûté. Pour faire un 6 sur 7.
And here was the second Stanlerine. You found this one all on your own just by poking around behind the boss's office. You did that, Stanley. I'll be honest, back then I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways. Okay, let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini stand? Can you remember?
La troisième, c'était les toilettes.
No. The boss's bathroom was the 4th place you found a
Ah.
Stanley, not the 3rd.
Ah, ben, non.
Well, I guess perhaps I
si.
shouldn't be surprised. Memories like these are so precious and so cherished that they all just sort of blend together, don't they? You know what? If the boss's bathroom feels like the 3rd place you found a collectible, then who am I to go making judgments?
Pardon. Je me suis trompé.
Let's see, what came next? Oh yes, we found a Figley in this pink room. Oh well, I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened. This was the 5th mini stand, and this one was really something special. It was in the warehouse. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion. Enjoy.
Ça s'est pas tout à fait passé comme ça, mais...
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot of time making that video, but it was 8 minutes I wouldn't have spent on anything else.
Un chef-d'œuvre, à mon avis.
And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here by the red and blue doors. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a Figley and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like. And then there was no more. because we've caught up to the present moment. Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, memory zone.
D'accord.
No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines?
J'ai cru que c'était fini.
Backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction. See how
Allez.
that feels.
C'est parti.
Okay, yes, the room with the red and blue doors. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going, I want more. And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched? Yes, I love that video.
Ils auraient dû la remettre en entier, honnêtement. Moi, je l'aurais remis en entier à leur place.
Still don't remember the pink room, Stanley. Still no memory of this one. Good room, though. A solid room. These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have neutered the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one.
Bah non, du coup. Je me demande si c'est dynamique.
This was our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes, I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going. This is it. The very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figurines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this? Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then. The time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now. Look how much fun the past is. I want more. More memories. Oh, yes, the two doors. Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one.
Et oui, à chaque fois, j'allais à droite.
And before everything else, there was your office. Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember. Yes, I'm remembering something now. I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy. And I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions. He would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again. I want to go back to how it used to be. Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stanley anymore. Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good. I did enjoy telling his story so very much. Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Je crois qu'on a fait le tour du jeu, maintenant.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Honnêtement...
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him
Je sais pas si ça va sauvegarder ma progression ou pas. Du coup, je sais pas si en fait j'arrête parce que j'ai peur de devoir tout recommencer, mais...
No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift. Good,
Said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Le saut est
No,
diabolique.
stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I
C'est ça.
suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
Allez, on va avoir le PowerPoint sur le saut.
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay. Let's begin. Item 1. Is this a bucket? Correct. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
Huh.
Item 2. Is this a bucket? Correct. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
Il est fort, hein.
Item 3. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. This is a bucket. Item 4. Is this a bucket? What? Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's an enormous machine that tills the earth. I thought this was a gimmick. How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely incredible.
Mais je me suis dit qu'il y avait peut-être un saut derrière. Je sais plus, moi, j'ai perdu.
Is this a bucket? Correct. This is a bucket.
Ah, ben voilà.
Item 6. Is this a bucket?
Non.
Trick question. Both. Gotcha. Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere. Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here.
J'ai cru qu'il était invisible.
The implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something, and therefore nothing could
J'ai
possibly
cru qu'il
be
était
something.
invisible.
Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket? You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence, and yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart.
Non.
I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely.
Non.
Okay, here we go. What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket. My God, I had no idea. How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either.
Je ne suis
Oh,
pas
this
un
is
sot.
wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue. But it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game.
Entre
So, tell
non-sots.
you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who
Très
knows
bien.
what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
Bon, bah je crois que ça y est, on a fini. Hein. Parce que franchement, j'ai plus d'idée de ce que je peux faire. Je peux aller
Just a
répondre
step through this
au
door,
téléphone
Stanley
avec
thought to
le
himself. That's all I
saut.
need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all. The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket.
À chaque fois que je passe, apparemment, il y a un ordinateur allumé.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back
Est-ce
to
que
the
toutes
meeting
les fins sont changées à cause du saut? Est-ce que je vais devoir
No,
faire 3 heures de
said the
plus
bucket.
dessus?
Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift. Good,
said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Toujours. J'obéis au saut.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket. This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend.
Oh, trop
And
bien.
then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him. The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head. Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me.
Je vis avec mon saut maintenant.
Stanley,
can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think, it can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else. You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from, me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket, this stupid hunk of metal. It's sad, but I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
Bah, après, il est un peu pourri, le seau, hein. Mais bien sûr que tu existes, mon petit seau.
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more, what am I trying to say?
Tu regardes un écran blanc, mon petit seau?
More capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another. Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket?
On rentre du travail. Ou pas.
Oh no. I'm having feelings for the bucket. No. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say.
Hola.
Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing.
Oh.
Yes. The bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation. Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it or I'll...
Je crois que le seau a tué le narrateur.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Mon seau. Eh ben, c'était cool, mais je pense qu'on va arrêter ici. Je sais pas si je continuerai ou pas à essayer de chercher les autres fins, comme je sais pas si ça va sauvegarder. Mais bon, c'était marrant, je trouve qu'on a fait le tour, et là, franchement...
Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home. Stanley clutched the bucket
Je ne sais
tightly to
plus
his
où aller.
chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy? It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your
Pose-le.
This is your companion and lifelong friend. You can't hand it over. Oh no. We're
We're getting into name-calling now, it seems. Is this how low the broom closet has sunk, that it has to resort to this stream of petty
Moi, j'aurais posé le
insults
seau.
simply in order to get you to hand over the bucket? Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety of reasons, but even this is worse than I had imagined. And wait, now the broom closet has the gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and lasting friends? That your relationship is purely superficial and convenient? That your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd feel the same sort of kinship towards any inanimate object which happened to lay in your path in an even partially enticing manner? Well, I never. Go on, Stanley. Lay into it. Really tell the broom closet off for its demeaning comments. Expand on the wide variety of experiences
Je vais les
you
taper
and the
avec
bucket
le
have
seau.
shared together. Go through each of them point by point. Share your journal entries detailing the rich emotional landscape of your feelings for the bucket as they have changed and evolved over the years. Let him have it. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Je sais pas où m'amène le seau.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the pin number for the keypad was 2845. Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Mais je la trouve pas, la combinaison. Je suis en train de la chercher.
2845.
Je la trouve pas, la combinaison. Je la cherche pourtant.
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself, and Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Le code ne semble pas marcher.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control. Although this passageway had the word escape,
Je m'échappe avec mon
the
seau.
truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death. The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Non, le seau me protégera, je le mettrai sur ma tête et il me sauvera. Le seau me protège. D'accord, le seau me protège pas.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
Non, protège-moi le seau.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous...
Ça me fait rire qu'ils aient refait toutes les lignes, mais avec le bucket en
The
plus.
bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death. It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious...
D'accord, oui,
bucket
maintenant
to
j'ai le musée
behold.
du seau, forcément. Mais j'ai perdu le seau.
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him?
Je suis quasiment sûr qu'il y a plus de 25 seaux ici.
Far
Mais...
more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life.
En vrai, un seau à 2 ans, c'est pas bête. Si il y a 2 personnes qui doivent le porter. Le seau du stress.
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
Donne-moi le seau! Oh, je croyais que j'allais tomber.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision of...
Mais techniquement, le seau est mort avec moi. Hein. Enfin, il a été écrasé aussi, quoi. Bizarre.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
C'est bon, il est toujours là, mon petit seau.
Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around.
Je peux pas abandonner le
Stanley
seau.
touched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Je suis en train de me dire, j'aurais pas dû
Still
prendre le
no
saut et
loss
j'aurais
here.
dû aller à droite.
Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd... Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants...
Hmm? Oh! Je crois que j'ai un petit travail. Ah, mais il se rallume. Ah bah écoutez, je crois que je suis arrivé au bout du jeu là. Eh ben, quelle aventure. Comment on revient à l'écran titre?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it
C'est un peu le
mean?
bazar ici, hein,
Stanley
maintenant.
decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps...
Mais bon, comment on revient là, comme ça? Bah écoutez, moi je pense qu'on a fait le tour. Ça va bientôt faire 4 heures qu'on est ensemble. Alors je pense qu'on va s'arrêter ici, hein. Je pense que j'ai à peu près tout vu. Je sais pas. Je chercherai sur internet pour voir ce que j'ai raté, hein, parce que honnêtement, voilà. Bon, c'est malgré tout bien marré. Et je pense que du coup, on va se dire, à la semaine prochaine, je suis pas sûr que je serai là. Mais voilà, la semaine prochaine. J'ai envie de laisser cette musique pour la fin parce qu'en vrai elle est bien même. Mais ouais, franchement, le jeu était vraiment bon, hein. C'est... comment dire? C'est le genre de mode Half-Life que... Voilà quoi. Enfin, après c'est dommage que ça soit plus Half-Life, que maintenant ça soit Unity. Parce que c'est très bizarre déjà de voir tous les assets de Half-Life 2 comme ça, mais...
Bye!